All right. Yep. We are live. Good morning. Good
Hey.
morning, beautiful people. We have a very, very special guest, a very illustrious guest, a multi hyphenate, someone who is super busy in the community, got some really cool things going on. Can't wait to talk about it. Her name is Bonita Oliver. Her artist name is French Leave, which also has some great context behind that name. Bonita, thank you so much for taking the time because we know you're super busy. We know like you're kind of in between doing things right now, kind of fitting us in. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be speaking with you both. And I love the way this conversation is going. So,
Yes. We were just having a nice little conversation prior and kind of just leading into this. And we just wanted to give you the proper introduction before we picked it back up. So where were we at, Ira?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about how we were talking about the impact of 2020 on artists. In particular, French Leaves is a performance artist. So, can you talk to us a little bit about that? And obviously, that really is the context for the bigger conversation that we're about to have regarding, you know, the the availability of the blockchain, right? So
yes,
yeah, take it away. Tell us about how was 2020 for you as an artist?
2020. Oof. 2020 isn't it was an initiation into a new life for me, and I fully embraced it. I knew 2020 was going to be um, a time of massive change. Um, you could feel it in the air. You could feel it in the air that week that our country shut down. It was March, the week of the March 15th performance that was scheduled for a group that I had been a part of, um, that we had to cancel. I knew that this was going to be a moment for me to step into what I really needed, what I really wanted as an artist. And so I was primed to experiment with new technology because I knew that that was something that I needed in order to uh, continue to put a message out there, to continue to have communion with others. I knew that technology was going to be a part of it because obviously we're all in lockdown. It wasn't a, well, when are we going to get back to normal? I just could sense that this was going to be a massive shift in how we were going to be with each other. So because I just had that, I just knew that that was what was coming. I embraced it. And it was literally in March. I'd already been investing in cryptocurrency since 2017, but just very little. But in March was when I started to really dive into it and started to learn more about it. Started to familiarize myself with the different technologies around blockchain. And I just immediately saw that this was our path forward. Um, and I've always been someone that is trying to connect the future with the past. I'm trying to connect every moment with the moments that have come before. I'm always reflecting on the past, and I'm always thinking about how what I'm doing right now is going to have an impact on the future. So to me, blockchain technology fit in perfectly with that, with the idea of legacy, digital legacy, making sure that we maintain integrity as we move forward, that we honor our history, and that we lay a trajectory for the future, that our forthcoming ancestors will be able to use as a touchstone.
Mm.
So that was immediately my focus when it came to blockchain technology, and when it came to experimenting with technology in 2020 and how that can be a part of building community. So I didn't find Clubhouse until November. of 2020, but I was already experimenting with how blockchain technology could be something that I could utilize in my artistic process. And a friend of mine turned me on to Clubhouse in November, and I found that there was already a community talking about these things. And so I think this pandemic and the quarantine was, for me, a gift. It was a reset button. It was an opening, like I said, an initiation into a completely new chapter of my life. And actually just like, it was just the beginning of a journey that I'm going to go deep into. And I'm never gonna go back to the way it was.
Yeah.
So that was actually, I see, a really vague answer to your question.
Oh,
But
that was
no, that
beautiful.
was perfect.
Yeah,
that was perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
let me ground it a little bit more. I don't ever want to stop experimenting with new technology. I was so limited before 2020. I was so afraid before 2020. But after 2020, I am just, whatever comes. Now my mind has shifted to adaptation. And that is something that is going to be a part of me forever. Adaptation. And how can any change that happens in the environment be integrated into the work that I'm doing?
And you know,
so that's how 2020 has impacted. Yeah, sorry.
No. That was beautifully put, because I wanted to add to that from the research that I was doing on you when I was looking up, you know, your work and what you've done, because you do a lot. You're an actor. You're a playwright. You're a filmmaker. You're so vast in how you express yourself artistically, and now technology is something that you've adopted, as you put so wonderfully, because I connect to that on so many levels, using that to your advantage to continue to express yourself in these artistic ways to really connect with other people. Because at the end of the day, that's what technology does. It brings people together. It builds a community. And especially, you know, with the good side of like social media and where technology is going, we need to make sure that we are bringing the positives of that, which is community building, which is education, connection, you know, all
education,
these, all these things that really build community. And of course, we can have it in a way where it can easily get derailed to like just a dark place, and we understand where that goes, but there's also a light place that goes to it too. And I think this conversation is important to understand that there is good that comes from this, and we can really build each other up and build a legacy, especially through blockchain technology, to make sure that it is here. It is not going anywhere. It will live in posterity for all of the upcoming generations. That's the whole point, right? This is going to outlive us. So
yeah.
You know what? And that's a great point too. We were talking earlier about how blockchain technology builds and creates legacy. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because you made some really great points, you know, about ways we can think about this versus what's popular, if you will.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but to me, that again, that was like, I grew up in a family that was very much about history and storytelling. Like my sister has always been involved in the study of African and African American history. My father is a storyteller. You know, I was telling you earlier, you know, he was in music ministry. And so he would use music and storytelling to connect people, to bring people together. So for me, it's just a part of how I see the world. Like it's gonna be a story. It's gonna be about story. It's gonna be about narrative. It's going to be about legacy. It's going to be about history. So it's just how I see the world. So for me, that was what excited me about blockchain technology. That now we have this this way to preserve our history as we tell it.
Yeah.
And it can't be fudded. It can't be, I mean, it can't be messed with. People will try, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. You can't erase it. It's like DNA, like genetic code.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You
Can't be altered. Can't be.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it can mutate over time, but it's like you can't ever erase the past. And so exactly, and that's how, to me, that's what blockchain is. That's the exciting part about it, as well as being able to decentralize, being that everyone can now tell their own story and be sovereign to themselves in how their story is told. Right. So those two things were what excited me about the technology. So to me, it was like a no-brainer. We should be approaching history this way. Historians, teachers should be like, everything should be minted on the blockchain. Yeah, exactly. Archiving. Historical preservation, archival integrity. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, politics, everything, they should be doing everything on the, everybody running our government should be making sure their activities are noted on the blockchain. Of course, that will never happen. That will never happen.
I think,
but that's how,
honestly, in the future, though, I mean, in the future,
it will be in the future. Yes.
Swiftly, we're moving in that direction. Everything.
True democracy. True.
Right.
But it's not going to be easy, because that's the struggle. That's what we're struggling against is, and that's why the regulation, that's why the regulation is coming in, because they realize that this takes, it takes their control away. They can't, it's taking their control away. So they're going to fight that hard. I think over the next 4 years is where it's going to get really intense, the struggle against how this technology will be allowed to be utilized, harnessed.
Because that's the key word right there, allowed. With these structures that we have, the government. So why don't we dive more into blockchain and your experience with it? So why don't you kind of share with us briefly what one of your first couple projects looked like on blockchain?
Well, so the first thing I did was completely an experiment. I mean, it was just wanting to see how it worked.
As I'm sure 95% of people.
It's like, what, how does this actually, how do we actually do this?
Right.
So, I just wanted to create a story through song, a chapter, little chapters of a story, each its own little song. And I'd heard about Mintable. At the time, they were allowing for those 12-hour auctions where, if no one purchases it, it just pops back into your wallet. So that was my first mint, just a song that is going to be, in 4 parts, telling a story about a particular character. And I never intended for anyone really to see that. It was just to see how it would work. And then the second thing I did is listed on OpenSea. It's called Memory is a Hungry Whale. And that was more for me. It was, again, with this idea of digital legacy, recording history. It was a way for me to store my memories, to make sure my memories will be preserved. It was actually part of this project that I did for a class that I took at the MoMA, for Garrett Bradley's piece that she had there recently in collaboration with the Studio Museum. Garrett Bradley, who's the director of the film Time. It's amazing. They basically invited people to create little time capsule films that they were going to put in their permanent archives, which they did. The film Memory is a Hungry Whale is now in the MoMA and the Studio Museum's permanent archives. But it's about telling our story and having these little memories for the future. And so I decided to mint mine onto the Ethereum blockchain. So that is my digital imprint, my memory for the future. So it was literally images from my family, my children, my partner who passed away. It was also his memories, but his memories from my perspective minted onto the blockchain. And so that was in March of this year that I did that. And now what I'm working on is a project called Seeking Truth, which is about, it's actually going to be an installation project as well. And it's going to be chapters. The first installment is on Sojourner Truth, but it's actually going to look at other historical figures whose stories have been obscured or, tampered with to fit the popular narrative.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy. I'm sorry to cut you off because I'm happy you brought that up because I just needed to say this because I wanted to mention it. And I love, your perspective on like these types of projects, and it really shows. And I can't wait to show our viewers our snippets from our conversation before, because it really complements this conversation now about just perspective. And you brought it up too, just perspective on, when you brought up memories of a hungry whale and your perspective of other people's memories, and how I'm obsessed with that angle because this project that you were working on now, Seeking Truth, you explain how, and I know you're going to explain it much better than I, but I'm just obsessed with it. I just had to say it. Oh. You're really showing these representations of Sojourner Truth through kind of like trying to be in her mind of how it really went down. And of her career as, a civil rights activist, an abolitionist. And I love that. Because of course, when you see these movies, these biopics and all that, that's exactly what it is. But to show it in this type of artistic way where you're so, multidisciplinary, like you're doing a lot of different things. And I can't wait to you like dive into all the pieces of this project, because it's super cool. I told Ira we need to go. So
we need to see it. Yeah,
we need to. I want to be there. So please continue.
Oh, yay.
No, please, because it's really fascinating, like your angle on this, and I want to know how you're, really bringing this all together. Like I'm super interested in that. So please continue. I'm sorry, I just had to say that.
Thank you for your excitement. I really appreciate that. I'm so excited that you're into the idea of this. Because I do think that this is going to be, and we were kind of touching on this a little bit, Ira, about how, we were talking about Zoom and and this virtual space, but we are going to be entering the metaverse. I think this is going to be pretty commonplace. What I'm doing right now, it's just going to be how we do things in the future. We are going to be communing in digital space as our avatars and interacting with each other in that way. And so, all right, let me focus on Seeking Truth, because my mind is already going to like the next projects down the road. But yeah, with Seeking Truth, I really wanted to, the title is it. It's right there.
Double entendre is what I was thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Right. There's so many versions of the truth out there, of the truth. And it's all
literally
different.
And figuratively.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And there's just, everyone's experience of life is their own. No one, is going to see the world the way I see the world. I can try to make it so through this artistic expression, but it's a deeply personal experience to walk through life and to reflect upon one's own life. And then, to be able to record that, to be able to share it in some way is extremely important. And Sojourner Truth didn't read or write. She was an orator, she was a speaker, she was a preacher, she was an inspired performance artist, I think, too.
Elocutionist, yes.
Yes. And so I just was really intrigued in March, right before the pandemic, really flared up. I was invited to participate in a musical work by a composer who wanted to do a piece on Sojourner Truth. Tim Kaya is his name. And it was through that I started to dive into Sojourner's life and see that there were these two divergent, tellings of this Ain't I a Woman speech, recordings of the speech. And that just got my mind going about how, whoever tells the story at the end of the day, whoever records the story, that's the story that we learn. That's the one that gets to proliferate. So I was just really intrigued with this idea of how, Sojourner's story, if she could have been able to write her own story, would have been extremely different. I started reading different books about her. I read the narrative of Sojourner Truth, which also was not written, it wasn't written down by Sojourner, it was transcribed. And in reading that one, that was when I really started to see some of these words might be Sojourner's, but this is still being filtered through the person writing her words down. And I could feel, as a Black woman walking through life today, I could feel where the story was being filtered as I was reading the narrative of Sojourner Truth. I'm like, this is not her. This is this white woman's perspective on this Black woman. This is her reflection on this woman's life. And so that's what inspired me to want to tell the story in this particular way, where in seeking truth, I am kind of like breaking her into a prism of personalities. And I'm doing that also because, again, walking through life as a Black woman at many times in my life, and that is, I'm now stepping out of that to be my full, whole self in every situation. But there's been so much of my life that I've spent trying to compartmentalize who I am, to be different parts of myself in different environments just to survive, to thrive. Yeah. And I know that I'm not the only one who has done that, who has had to, what do you call it? Code switch.
Code switch. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I just started to think like, maybe I can present Sojourner as this woman who had to compartmentalize herself to be these different versions of herself in different situations, who was very strategic and calculated in how people were going to receive her message. And I think she actually was, I know she was, after doing more research, she was really particular about how she was photographed. She didn't want to be painted, because then she knew people could take liberty with her image. So she would prefer to be photographed, because she knew that then her real essence would come through and she could have more control over how she was going to be seen, how she would be posed. And she was really, 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 particular about that. So this is a woman who was thinking about her imagery, how it would be received, what all of her meant, in what context, how her words needed to be heard, and by whom and when. It reminds me of this Audre Lorde poem that I love, Cole, where Audre Lorde says, how a sound comes into a word, colored by who pays what for speaking. But it just really made me think about, if Sojourner were alive today, I think she'd be like a PR marketing guru. Because she really understood the power of her words and her image and storytelling. If she were alive today in this digital world that we're in, how would she move? How would she be? And are the different parts of herself, kind of convening with each other to come up with the best way to tell the story, or to get the message that she wants to get across out. So that was what made me decide to cast 5 different actors in the role of Sojourner Truth, where it's different aspects of Sojourner's personality, and they're all, kind of deciding how they're going to tell her story, how her message is going to get across. And again, thinking about how she would act in this current world that we're living in, how she would leverage her image, how she would use her image to tell a story is what kind of like made me want to dive into the digital space, using NFTs, digital art, minting them as NFTs. She would sell a postcard with her image on it, her carte de visite, with an image of herself, and it said, "I sell the shadow to support the substance." That's what she would do to support her speaking tours. She would sell these little postcards.
I like that.
Yeah, I sell the shadow to support the substance. So again, she knew the power of her image, and she was utilizing her image to support her tours. So she would have embraced the NFT.
She understood. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
She would have used the NFT, like she would have used her NFTs to get her message out there. So to me, it just seemed like this is the perfect way to tell her story.
It's kind of like what you were, it's kind of like what you were saying, really connecting the past and the future. And I love what you're doing with this particular project too, because of one of the main goals. And I would love for you to kind of wrap this up by explaining what that main goal is and who you're trying to really target to really connect the past to the future. So, and with digital medium.
Right.
Yes.
Which is our present.
This is our present. This is our future. And it is a way to honor our past. I'm trying to speak to young Black who identify as Black, and that is from wherever part of the world you're from, artists, to really make it clear that we are at a moment when you can just snatch your power, and you can
I like that.
You can use social media to do a little silly cat meme if you want. That's fine. You can do that. You have the power to do that. But how much more powerful would we be if we were extremely directed and conscious about our digital imprint and the story we were telling in our social media image? Sojourner Truth is an icon on so many levels, but she can actually be a representative of the power of social media and digital imagery in this day and age. So I'm speaking to our youth, I'm speaking to teens, I'm speaking to young people, I'm speaking to artists, I'm speaking to people who really want to be sovereign unto themselves. This is for you. Seeking Truth is for you. The questions that we ask in this piece, the way we tell the story, I'm hoping that it will inspire you to dig into this technology and come up with new ways of using it, but doing it in a way that is empowering, empowering for yourself and for others. So that's what this is for. And I still feel like I've been completely vague and we don't have any more time.
No, that's
beautiful. At the end of the day, you are your own brand. And I think you beautifully summed it up, by talking about Sojourner Truth. I think what I love about this project is it brings the past, right? And in a very historical moment, an inflection point where we are right now. And it speaks to younger generations. Like it's beautiful in that way. We've enjoyed having you on the show today. This has been amazing. I love our previous conversation. We'll definitely want to share it in some extended interview, but tell everybody how they can access information about tickets, where they could potentially see the show live, and also availability of the show in the metaverse, and the fact that the show comes out very soon.
In November, yes. So, yes, I am in residence at Loisaida Inc., which is on the Lower East Side of Manhattan, and it's going to premiere on through their site. You'll be able to access it that way. It is going to be the first week in November. I haven't finalized the exact date yet because, with technology, you want to make sure everything is, but it will be the first week in November, and you will be able to receive updates on the Loisaida website. So Loisaida Inc. Just go to their website and you will be able to find all of the information about the premiere of Seeking Truth, which, yes, people will be able to enter the space. They will be able to see digital art pieces, representations of Sojourner Truth, and historical documents, actual historical digital versions of these historical documents from her life. And you will see pieces of film, I call, just moving art pieces about Sojourner Truth that are telling her story from the angles of these different versions of Sojourner Truth. So yeah, I hope that you will check it out. And I hope to actually do this again. I don't think it will be a one-time experience. I think that I will do this many times, and then I will move on to the other chapters, some of these other historical figures that I would like to cover. So
that's
Nice.
so awesome.
Nice.
That's so
Yeah.
awesome. Well, we can't wait to be a part of it. I think we're really, really considering. I mean, it's in New York. It's right there. You know, we're in
Yeah.
Connecticut. We're not too far. So I think we really want to be a part of that because it is also being live streamed. But
Yes,
right,
yep.
it's also being live
Yeah.
streamed, so you can check it out
Yeah.
through the website. But I think
Yeah.
we would do justice by showing up. We would love to meet you in
Absolutely.
person. You seem like a wonderful person. Thank you so much for making the time for
Thank
us.
you.
Where can we find you on social media?
So at French Leave 62317, and I do have a website. I'm redoing my website. I'm going to actually make it, you know, something completely different, something more interactive, and
Web3,
put in the
Web3?
metaverse.
Web3,
Yes,
yeah.
We're doing Web3.
exactly.
We going Web3?
That's where I'm going. So right now, right now it's bonitaoliver.com. But yeah, we're going into the metaverse. So
Can't wait. Cannot
All
wait.
right. Everybody, we want to make sure that you know to check us out every week. We are here, Black Tech Futures Media. These are our weekly chats. You have just listened to season 2. I almost said season 3. Wow.
Ooh, we in the future.
I was about to say, we're ready to go.
Season 2, episode 4. Thank you for being here with our guests. This is Jamil over here. This is Ira right here. And thanks so much, French Leaves, also known by our government name as Bonita Oliver. All right.
That's right.
Check us out on creativetraders.com. And I'm Black NFTs 9. Wow. Get who I am. That's the path. But anyway, thanks everybody for being here. And we will see you next week.
Peace. All right. Peace.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Bonita.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun. I hope to talk with you again.
Absolutely.